Very good afternoon, one and all present over here. I, Dr. Kunjal Lotwala, welcome you on behalf of Agrawal Vidya Vihar English Medium College in the session of written and spoken communication. In first lecture, as you know that I have discussed with you uh, syllabus and paper style of written and spoken communication, and later on I have discussed with you poem Life by Charlotte Bronte. I guess I have already finished the poem with you, but a question answer session is yet to discuss. So today uh, I would like to finish that remaining portion, and afterwards I'll begin with the second prose, that is A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise, written by Rabindranath Tagore. So have a glance over the poem Life so that you can revise also, and at the same time we can discuss the question answer. So the name of the poem is Life, which I have already discussed with you in last lecture. Now I would like to discuss the question answer. So Life poem written by Charlotte Bronte. I have discussed about the author also, about the poem also, the whole poem stanza wise I have discussed with you. Not only that, I have given you the glossary also so that you can find the meaning of the words. And now, moving ahead with the question answer session, the first question is, the poet says that sages describe life as dark and gloomy. Does she agree with them? So the answer will be, what do you think? The poet says that sages describe life as dark and gloomy. So in the very beginning of the poem, she is telling that no, the poet says that sages describe life as dark and gloomy. Poet doesn't agree with this thing, whatever sages are telling, as she considers that life is not something to be feared or something dark dream that one has to afraid of. So whatever sages have said, she is neglecting those things, she is denying those things. She is telling, rather, life is more joyful. God has given us one life, and therefore there should be a balance of everything. One should forget the past and live in the present. One should make most out of while life while living the life. So whether it is sorrow, joy, struggle, and pain, one should feel alive not just through happy moments, but also through the moment that most tragic moments also in the life. So one should be hopeful rather hopeless. So this is what she is telling in the poem. I hope you are clear with the first question answer. Now moving ahead with the second question. The second question is, oh, why lament its fall? Lament, I have already discussed with you the meaning of lament. Lament means cry. So why to cry its fall? Whose fall is the poet referring to? Why does she ask us not to lament its fall? So poet raises a rhetoric question. See, she is asking on the she is asking the question that no, oh, why lemon its fall? So here she is raising a rhetoric question in the first stanza. If the shower will make the roses bloom, oh, why lemon its fall? This is what she is telling in the stanza, meaning that if rain can make the roses bloom, then why should we mourn it? Why should we mourn on the certain things? In other words, sorrow lead to happiness and should not be lamented. So this is what she is telling. So I hope you are clear with the second question answer also. Now moving ahead with the third question. What do life's sunny hours refer to? And according to the poet, how should we respond to them? So life's sunny hours here refers to cheerful moments of life. The life's sunny hours fleet by very fast, and thus, instead of lamenting the sorrows and griefs, one should gratefully, cheerily enjoy those fast flying moments of life. This is what she is telling. Moving ahead with the fourth question. According to the poet, why should we not lose hope? So poet says that though death may take away your life during our best time, or the sorrows take over our hope. So we should never lose the will and determination, because hope has elastic springs. Elastic springs mean that the hope is elastic, and life the spring season. It can be bent by the sorrows or by the winter, but cannot be broken and retains itself after the clouds of gloom go away, or when the winter goes away. One has to bounce back to it. Now, question 5. What seems to win initially, and over what? Initially, it seems that sorrows and griefs have bent poet down, or her hopes. So she still has her golden wings, which are capable of being flying even after griefs bent them down. Question 6. What is described as unconquered and why? Poet described hope as having elastic spring, and though she fell in sorrow, she will bounce back up again in hope. So her golden wings are still strong and buoyant and will able to bear everything well. So that is what she is determination, is unconquered, that she is courageous. Question 7. Throughout the poem, the poet uses images of nature, flowers, rain, birds, and so on. Identify all the words and images associated with the nature. You have seen that whenever I was discussing with this poem, I have suggested you that in the first stanza, second, third stanza, she is describing lots of natural images like rain. Rain is suggesting despair, clouds that suggest the gloominess, shower that is describing enjoyment, roses describing the merriment, spring describes the optimism, and golden wings are describing the courageous towards the death. So these are the imageries that she is describing in the poem. So I hope you are clear with this question answers. Moving ahead with the other questions also. So these are the questions that examine the poet's view of life and how it differs from conventional wisdom. So in the very beginning of the stanza, she is telling that in life, Charlotte Bronte puts forth men's never-ending discontent for life's downs in 3 wholesome imagery that pack the whole stanza. So in the beginning of the poem, she compels us to believe that, as she says, life is not a dream. According to the poet, we should believe that life is not a dream so dark as sages say. It means the life is not as bad as most of the people believe and say. The term morning rain is a metaphor which symbolizes sorrow and despair. That despair is often a way to joy and happiness, like morning rain which leads to a pleasant day. In other words, sorrow leads to happiness and should not be lamented. Second question, explain the attitude of life that the poet is recommending. So the second stanza of the poem Life revolving around the attitudes in the short lives we live. We are faced with the fleeting qualities of time. Rapidly, merrily, life's sunny hours fleet by, so that flying hours must be used wisely and be filled with productivity and enjoyment. Not only does she highlight that but also the importance of doing so gratefully. Bronte here wishes to shake us back into the consciousness so that our eyes are open to see the bountiful joy of life and beauty in everything, leading to a far more fruitful life. So this is what she is. Her tone and language is, her attitude towards her life is, no, replicating. Question 3. Discuss the language and tone of the poem. The tone of the poem Life by Charlotte Bronte is hopeful, it is optimistic, with the speaker expressing the belief that life is more joyful than many wise men said, that is, sages. So, the rhyme scheme of the poem is A B A B, except rain and dream. The poem is divided into 3 stanzas consisting of 8, 4, and 12 lines representative. Her poetry is notable for its experimentation in the form that would become the characteristics of the Victorian poetry. So as such, it is representing the 19th century. So obviously, it represents the Victorian era, Victorian poetry. The language she used is simple and understandable, and she has used metaphors, symbolism, and full of natural imageries as well. Question 4. Describe the imagery and its effectiveness in the poem. I have already discussed this question earlier also, but I would like to repeat it again so that you can remember also. So the poem is full of imageries. With uses of imageries, she tries to connect the central idea of theme of the poem, such as optimism, despair, enjoyment, merriment, and courageous to the death. It gives sensuous description. You can visualize it. And imagery means the use of pictures or words to create image, especially to create an impression or mood. For example, rain suggests the despair, clouds suggest the gloominess, shower suggests the enjoyment, roses suggest the merriment, spring suggests the optimism, and golden wings suggest the courage. So this is what she is discussing in this kind of imagery she is describing into the poem. Question 5. Bring out the main argument of the poem and judge whether it is convincing. In the first stanza, taking the example of the rain as a symbol of despair, the poet asks us to see its bright side. In the second stanza, you see that she asks us to enjoy fast-running moment of life. And in the third stanza, she becomes optimistic about being courageous even after her death. So this poem speaks of the cycle of life and all things one can feel while living, the joys, struggles, sorrow, and pain, so that one should make most out of it. Live and just feel alive through the most tragic moments of life. And that's why her argument is somehow convincing to us. So this is how you can write the question answers. Now moving ahead with I hope you are clear with this poem, Life. And if you have any questions, if you are unable to understand something, you may pose the question. So now moving ahead with the another prose, that is A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise, which is written by Rabindranath Tagore. I hope you all have textbook, and if you are not having textbook, I am trying to provide you the good copy of the text over here, so that those who are still not having textbook, they can have a glance over the text. So about the author, this prose, A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise, is written by Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore, we all are known to this well-known persona, multifaceted and multi-talented writer who was born in Kolkata. So Rabindranath Tagore, the lifespan is 1861 to 1941, was the first Asian to receive the Nobel Prize. He is the first Asian who has received the Nobel Prize, an Indian also, and he was awarded the Literature Prize in 1913 for his seminal work Gitanjali. So in 1913, he got this literature prize. So, this seminal work, seminal means innovative. Besides being a multifaceted artist, he was a poet, novelist, playwright, painter, and music composer. Tagore was a philosopher and a visionary educationalist. So you see that he is a poet also, novelist also, playwright also, painter also, music composer also, and philosopher and visionary educationalist who has contributed a lot in educational field also. He was the founder of the experimental school Shanti Niketan and was given the honorific Gurudev by Mahatma Gandhi. So Mahatma Gandhi has given him an honor as Gurudev. So that's why Rabindranath Tagore is considered as Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, right? So this is what Mahatma Gandhi used to call him. While Tagore was the voice of India's spiritual heritage for the Western world, for India, he was a great living institution. He is following the Upanishadic ideals of education. So now moving ahead with his story, A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise. This is about the brief of the story. This story illustrates the famous slogan, "Art for art's sake." I would like to make you understand what is the meaning of art for art's sake. Before moving ahead with the understanding, I would like to just finish this about the story, so that after finishing it, I would like to discuss about what is the meaning of art for art's sake. So this story is emphasizing on the idea of art for art's sake, coined in early 19th century by French philosopher Victor Cousin. The slogan expresses the idea that true art needs no justification. So if you are into art, you don't require any utility, usefulness, or you cannot even justify that what is art. So art for art's sake, that it need not serve any political, didactic, moral, or practical purpose. You did not require any didactic or any practical purpose to make it understand what is the meaning of art. And the art is valuable as art, and the only objective of art is the pursuit of pure beauty. So art for art's sake, now it is clear that art for art's sake means art is something that if you have the understanding of art, then and then you can understand the art. Otherwise, no political idea, no didactic idea, no morality, no practical purpose will make you understand what is the meaning of art. You need to have that beauty, that pursuit of pure beauty to understand the art. So Tagore, however, conveys this complex concept in a simple and humorous narrative, which in fact reminds us of the popular proverb, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." So all work and no play, all work, that is everything, if you are good in everything, if you are good in many things, doesn't mean that uh, all work no play makes Jack a dull boy. That no, all work and no play. If you are working only and you are not into any kind of play or art, that no, Jack a dull boy. That no play makes Jack a dull boy. So this is what about the story. uh, to make it simple, I would like to just give you the example that what is the meaning of art for art's sake. What is the meaning of this all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy? So I would like to just give you some kind of example. So before giving the example, I would like to ask you the question. What we call useful work. So what we call useful work. So useful work may mean different things to different people. So for businessmen, only conducting his business might be useful work. For carpenter, making or repairing wooden objects might be useful work. And for an athlete, exercising and maintaining fitness might be useful work. So the same way, for the artist, drawing picture, making painting, sculpting, all such things is useful for him, which is not useful for the carpenter, which is not useful for the businessman, which is not useful for the athletes. So that is how it varies from individual to individual. That's why art for art's sake means artistic have that kind of perceiving beauty to see what is there in the utility of the art. So drawing pictures, making sculpture, making paintings is something useful for the artist. So will everyone consider it useful work which is useful for the artist? Of course not. A lot of people might call it useless work. That these people are just spending time in leisure things. But work has its utility. They think that businessman thinks that thinking about the share market, thinking about various things regard where they can make money out of it, where they can invest their energy and time into it and make money out of it. They think that it is useful work. But for artists, it is not at all useful work. So no, according to the profession, according to the interest, it varies. So this is what art for art's sake. A wrong man in worker's paradise is also the story about an artist. Is a story of an artist whom others think of as an idol, meaning someone who avoids work and spends time in a lazy way. You have seen many artists where they are spending lots of time in thinking, in their imagination and their creation. And when he dies, so this artist is also like that. And when this artist dies, nobody thinks that he will go to heaven, because they were thinking that this man when he was living, he has done nothing, so useless person. So that's how they were thinking that they all, nobody thinks that he will go to heaven. But the man was lucky and he is taken to the paradise. But he is taken to wrong paradise. What kind of wrong paradise? A wrong paradise, that is workers' paradise, where workers were there. And this artist has the different temperament, and that's why the title has been given A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise. So this is the brief of the story. So I guess we should discuss this whole prose in next lecture. So I take leave from here, and we will discuss the prose in next session. Till now, you can, if you have text, you can read the prose also, so that whenever I explain or whenever I discuss here, you can get the better idea. So before that, no, you should procure the text. This is what I insist from you. Thank you.